Rain streaked the windows. The 6:15 morning train lurched forward. Passengers buried themselves in phones and newspapers. Savannah clutched her worn leather bag tighter. Her navy blue scrubs were wrinkled from another double shift at Cedar Grove Medical Center. Dark circles shadowed her brown eyes, exhaustion weighing on her 28-year-old frame like a heavy blanket. The fabric of her uniform still carried the faint scent of antiseptic and the weight of sleepless nights spent caring for others. The train car was packed, standing room only. She'd managed to snag the last available seat near the middle of the car, a small victory after 16 hours on her feet. The burgundy fabric was worn thin from countless commuters, but it felt like luxury compared to the hospital floors. She'd been walking all night. Her reflection in the window showed a woman who looked older than her years. Auburn hair escaped from her messy bun, framing a face that held both gentleness and determination. She absently touched the silver locket at her throat, a gift from her late grandmother, who had also been a nurse. 2 stops later, the doors hissed open. A man stepped aboard, his expensive charcoal suit perfectly tailored, the kind that cost more than Savannah made in a month. Behind him, a small boy with tousled brown hair clung to his father's hand. The child wore a red dinosaur backpack and Spider-Man sneakers that lit up with each step, creating tiny bursts of color in the dreary morning commute. Savannah watched them scan the crowded car. No seats available. The little boy, maybe 5 years old, swayed with each movement of the train. His father's protective arm wrapped around him, steadying him against the morning commuters. The man's expensive watch caught the fluorescent light. As he checked the time, his jaw set with the tension of someone managing too many responsibilities. "Daddy, I'm tired," the boy whispered, his small voice barely audible above the train's rhythmic clatter. The man's jaw tightened, and Savannah noticed the way his free hand clenched into a fist. "I know, buddy. Just a few more stops." Something stirred in Savannah's chest. The child's exhaustion reminded her of the pediatric patients she'd cared for during her shift. Small faces that haunted her dreams. Without thinking, she stood up, her tired muscles protesting the movement. "Excuse me," she called softly. "Would you like to sit?" The man looked up, startled. His green eyes met hers across the crowded aisle, and she noticed they were bloodshot, rimmed with the kind of fatigue that came from carrying burdens too heavy for one person. "Oh no, I couldn't, please," Savannah insisted, already stepping aside. Her voice carried the gentle authority she used with hesitant patience. "Your son looks tired." The little boy's face lit up like Christmas morning. "Thank you, pretty lady." His father hesitated, pride warring with practicality on his face. Then he nodded gratefully. "That's incredibly kind. Thank you." As they settled into the seat, Savannah gripped the nearby pole. The metal was cold against her palm, worn smooth by countless hands. The train swayed, and she stumbled slightly, her tired legs betraying her. The man reached out instinctively to steady her, his touch gentle but firm. "Are you sure you're okay?" "Standing?" he asked, genuine concern replacing his earlier embarrassment. Up close, she could see the designer's stubble couldn't hide the stress lines around his eyes. "I'm fine," she lied, though her legs ached from the long shift and her feet felt like they were on fire. "I get off in 3 stops anyway." The boy tugged at his father's sleeve, his small fingers working at the expensive fabric. "Daddy, she's nice, like Mommy was." A shadow crossed the man's face, the kind of grief that never fully heals. Savannah watched as he swallowed hard, his Adam's apple bobbing with suppressed emotion. "Yes, she is. Tyler." The name suited him perfectly, strong yet playful. Savannah found herself smiling despite her exhaustion, the genuine joy on the child's face infectious. "That's a great backpack you have there. It's got T-Rex on it," Tyler exclaimed, twisting to show her the detailed dinosaur design. His eyes sparkled with the kind of enthusiasm only children possess. "He's my favorite dinosaur. Daddy says T-Rex was the king of all dinosaurs." "Your daddy's right," Savannah agreed, kneeling slightly to be at Tyler's eye level. The movement made her back protest, but seeing the child's delight was worth it. "What's your favorite thing about dinosaurs?" As Tyler launched into an animated explanation about velociraptors and triceratops, his small hands gesturing wildly, his father watched with a mixture of pride and sadness. Savannah noticed the way he looked at his son, like he was memorizing every moment, storing them against some future loss. The man's wedding ring was gone, but she could see the pale band of skin where it had once rested. They had really big teeth, Tyler continued, making clawing motions with his hands, and they could run super fast, faster than cars. Wow, that is fast, Savannah said, genuinely enchanted by his enthusiasm. Do you want to be a paleontologist when you grow up? A paleo what? Tyler giggled, the word too big for his small mouth. Someone who studies dinosaurs, Savannah explained. They dig up fossils and learn about how dinosaurs lived. Tyler's eyes went wide. You can do that for a job. That's the best job ever. I'm Daniel, by the way, the man said quietly, his voice rough with emotion. Daniel Hawthorne, and this chatterbox is Tyler. Savannah Clark, she replied, extending her hand. His grip was firm, warm, and she noticed the calluses that spoke of someone who worked with his hands despite the expensive suit. It's nice to meet you both. The train began to slow, brakes squealing against the tracks. Savannah's stop was approaching, and she felt an unexpected reluctance to leave. There was something about this little family that tugged at her heart, a wounded quality that called to her nursing instincts. As she gathered her belongings, Tyler looked up at her with wide, innocent eyes. Will we see you again, Miss Savannah? I don't know, sweetheart, she said honestly, her heart squeezing at the hope in his voice. But I hope so. Daniel stood, pulling out his wallet with the automatic gesture of someone used to solving problems with money. Please, let me give you something for your kindness. Absolutely not, Savannah said firmly, her voice carrying the authority of someone who had learned to stand her ground. Take care of each other. As she stepped off the train, she glanced back through the window. Daniel was watching her, his expression unreadable, a mixture of gratitude and something deeper. Tyler pressed his small hand against the glass, waving goodbye with the uninhibited joy of childhood. The doors closed with a final hiss, and the train pulled away, carrying them out of her life, or so she thought. 3 days later, Savannah was restocking medical supplies in the pediatric ward when her supervisor, Janet, approached with a puzzled expression. Janet was a woman in her mid-40s with graying hair and the efficient manner of someone who had seen everything twice. Savannah, there's someone here to see you. He says it's important, Janet said, her brow furrowed with concern. He's in the main lobby with a child. They both looked pretty shaken up. In the lobby stood Daniel Hawthorne, but he looked nothing like the composed businessman from the train. Gone was the confident posture and carefully groomed appearance. His face was pale, stubble rougher than before. His usually perfect hair disheveled, as if he'd been running his hands through it. His expensive suit was wrinkled, the tie loosened and askew. Tyler sat beside him in a hospital wheelchair, looking impossibly small and fragile in a blue hospital gown that dwarfed his tiny frame. Savannah rushed over, her nurse's training kicking in as she assessed the situation. What's wrong? Tyler's sick, he said, his voice barely steady, each word seeming to cost him tremendous effort. Leukemia, we just found out yesterday. The words hit Savannah like a physical blow, stealing the breath from her lungs. She'd seen this diagnosis destroy families, watched strong parents crumble under the weight of their child's illness. She knelt beside Tyler's wheelchair, her trembling hands gentle as she checked his color and breathing, her nurse's instincts overriding her emotional response. Hey there, dinosaur expert, she said gently, forcing her voice to remain calm and reassuring. How are you feeling? Tyler's smile was weaker than she remembered, his usual boundless energy replaced by an exhaustion that seemed to weigh down his small shoulders. My tummy hurts, and I'm really tired. Like really, really tired. The doctors say. Daniel's voice cracked, and he had to clear his throat before continuing. They say, we caught it early. That's good. But he needs to start treatment immediately. Chemotherapy, radiation, maybe more. Savannah looked up at him, seeing the fear he was trying so hard to hide from his son. Daniel's hands shook slightly as he smoothed Tyler's hair, and she noticed his knuckles were raw, as if he'd been hitting walls or doors in his anguish. Is there anything I can do? She asked, though her mind was already racing through possibilities, contacts, specialists she knew. I don't know why I came here, Daniel admitted, his voice thick with embarrassment and desperation. I guess you were the last person who was kind to him before everything changed. I thought maybe you could help us understand what comes next. You're a nurse. You must have seen this before. He trailed off, looking lost and vulnerable in a way that made Savannah's heart ache. She understood completely. In moments of crisis, people grasped for any connection, any sign of hope, any familiar face in the storm. I'm glad you came, she said sincerely, reaching out to squeeze his shoulder. "Tyler, would you like me to show you around? This hospital has some pretty cool things, and I know all the best hiding spots." Tyler's eyes brightened slightly. "Can we see where they keep the dinosaur books?" "We absolutely can," Savannah said, standing and taking control of his wheelchair. "And I know a nurse on the 4th floor who collects dinosaur figurines. She might let you see them." Over the next few weeks, Savannah found herself spending every free moment with Tyler. During her lunch breaks, she'd bring picture books about dinosaurs and read to him in the sunny corner of the children's ward. She'd help him with art therapy projects, watching as his small hands struggled with paintbrushes that seemed too heavy for his weakening grip. When the chemotherapy made him too sick to eat, she'd sit beside his bed and tell him stories about brave dinosaurs who fought invisible monsters. Daniel was always there, a constant presence beside his son's bed. He'd set up a makeshift office in the corner of the room, conducting business calls in hushed tones while Tyler slept. Savannah watched him transform from the distant businessman she'd met on the train into a devoted father who learned to braid hair when Tyler asked for it, to be pretty like Mommy used to make it. Gradually, their conversations grew deeper. During late-night shifts when Tyler was sleeping, Daniel would walk with her through the hospital corridors, both of them needing the movement to process their fears. He told her about his late wife, Rebecca, who had died in a car accident 2 years earlier, how she'd been the one who knew all of Tyler's favorite songs, who could make him laugh when he was scared, who had dreamed of having more children. "I wasn't a good father before this," he confessed one evening as they sat in the hospital cafeteria, 2 cups of terrible coffee growing cold between them. "I worked 16-hour days, traveled constantly. I missed bedtime stories, school plays, dinosaur museum trips. I thought providing for him was enough." "You're here now," Savannah said, watching the way his fingers traced the rim of his coffee cup. "That's what matters." "Rebecca would have been better at this," Daniel continued, his voice heavy with regret. "She always knew what to say, what to do. She would have made this less scary for him. I feel like I'm failing him every day." Savannah studied his face in the harsh fluorescent light of the cafeteria, seeing the exhaustion that went deeper than sleepless nights. "You want to know what I see? I see a father who rearranged his entire life to be here, who sleeps in an uncomfortable chair every night, who learned to braid hair because Tyler missed his mom doing it, who researches every treatment option and asks questions until the doctors are tired of answering." Daniel's eyes filled with tears he'd been holding back for weeks. "I'm so scared, Savannah. I can't lose him too. He's all I have left of her. But more than that, he's everything good about me. Without him, I don't know who I am." "You won't lose him," she said firmly, reaching across the table to take his hand. "Tyler's strong, and he has you fighting for him. That's more powerful than any medicine." As Tyler's treatment progressed, something beautiful began to emerge from the chaos. Daniel started bringing homemade lunches to share with Savannah, simple sandwiches and fruit that he'd researched to make sure they met her nutritional needs after her long shifts. He'd remembered that she preferred green apples to red, that she took her coffee with extra cream, that she always skipped breakfast because she was too tired after work. Tyler would insist on picnics in the hospital garden. The 3 of them spread out on a blanket under the oak trees. Even when he was too weak to eat much, he'd direct the conversation with the authority of a 5-year-old, asking Savannah about her other patients and telling her elaborate stories about the dinosaurs he'd visit once he was better. "You know," Tyler said one sunny afternoon, his bald head warm against Savannah's shoulder, "I think Mommy sent Miss Savannah to take care of us." Daniel's hand found Savannah's, their fingers intertwining naturally. "Maybe she did, buddy." But just as life seemed to be finding its rhythm, tragedy struck again. Tyler's white blood cell count dropped dangerously after a particularly aggressive round of chemotherapy. His small body was rejecting the treatment, and the doctors gathered in hushed conferences that excluded Daniel from their medical discussions. "He needs an immediate bone marrow transplant," Dr. Martinez explained, her usually warm demeanor replaced by clinical urgency. "Without it, his chances of survival drop significantly. We've tested Daniel, but he's not a match." The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Daniel gripped the arms of his chair until his knuckles went white, his face a mask of barely controlled panic. "We're searching the National Registry," Dr. Martinez continued, "but it could take weeks or months to find a compatible donor, time we might not have." That night, Savannah sat in the hospital chapel, praying to a God she wasn't sure was listening. She'd grown to love Tyler like her own son, and watching him suffer was unbearable. "Savannah," Daniel's voice echoed in the empty space. "I thought I might find you here." She wiped her eyes. "I'm not even particularly religious, but I didn't know where else to go." He sat beside her. "I wanted to thank you for everything you've done for us. I know this isn't your responsibility." "Don't," she interrupted. "Tyler isn't a responsibility. He's become family to me." Daniel was quiet for a long moment. "There's something I need to tell you, something I should have said weeks ago." Savannah's heart clenched. "What?" "I've been in love with you for weeks now. I know the timing is terrible, and I know you might not feel the same way, but I couldn't let another day pass without telling you." Before she could respond, her phone buzzed. A text from Dr. Martinez. "Need to see you immediately. It's about Tyler." They rushed to the doctor's office, fearing the worst, but Dr. Martinez was smiling. "I ran some additional tests," she said. "Savannah, you're a perfect match for Tyler's bone marrow transplant." The room spun. "What? How is that possible?" "It's rare, but not impossible. Sometimes people who aren't related can be perfect matches. It's like the universe aligned." Daniel stared at her in disbelief. "You'd do that? You'd go through surgery for Tyler?" "In a heartbeat," Savannah said, without hesitation. The transplant surgery took place on a crisp October morning. As Savannah was wheeled into the operating room, Daniel squeezed her hand. "Thank you," he whispered, "for saving my son, for saving us both." The surgery was successful. During the long recovery period, as Tyler's body accepted the transplant, the three of them grew even closer. Daniel had taken an extended leave from his company, something the old Daniel would never have considered. 3 years later, the Hawthorne Children's Foundation occupied an entire floor of a gleaming building in downtown Chicago. Daniel had transformed his grief into purpose, creating a network of support for families facing childhood cancer. The foundation provided everything from financial assistance to emotional support, from meal delivery to childcare for siblings. Savannah had left her position at Cedar Grove Medical Center to become the foundation's director of patient care, using her nursing background to bridge the gap between medical professionals and terrified parents. She'd developed programs that paired families with mentors who had walked the same difficult path. Mrs. Hawthorne, her assistant, called from the outer office. "The Peterson family is here for their consultation." Mrs. Hawthorne. Even after 2 years of marriage, the name still made her smile. She smoothed her professional blazer and checked her reflection in the window. At 31, she carried herself with the confidence of someone who had found her true calling. The Petersons were a young couple, barely out of college, holding hands tightly as they sat across from her desk. Their 4-year-old daughter had just been diagnosed with the same type of leukemia Tyler had fought. "We don't know what to do," the mother whispered, her voice breaking. "The doctors are using all these medical terms, and the treatment sounds so scary. We can't afford to take time off work, but we can't leave her alone." Savannah reached across the desk, her heart aching with familiar recognition. "I understand exactly how you feel. Let me tell you about a little boy named Tyler, and how his family found their way through this." That evening, Savannah drove to Tyler's school for his class presentation. At 8 years old, Tyler had become something of a local celebrity, speaking at fundraising events and sharing his story with other sick children. His latest project was a presentation about paleontology for his second-grade class. She slipped into the back of the classroom just as Tyler, now tall for his age, with wild curls and bright eyes, stood before his classmates. He wore his favorite dinosaur shirt and those same light-up sneakers, though he'd gone through several pairs as he'd grown. "Dinosaurs lived millions of years ago," Tyler began, his voice clear and confident. "Some people think they were scary, but I think they were brave. They had to survive lots of dangerous things, just like people do today." He clicked to his next slide, showing a photo of himself in the hospital bed, bald and thin but smiling. "This is me when I was really sick. I had to fight invisible monsters in my blood, kind of like how dinosaurs fought predators." The other children leaned forward, captivated. Tyler continued, "But I had help. My daddy never left my side, and a very special nurse named Savannah gave me some of her strong cells so I could get better. Now, she's my mummy, and we help other kids fight their invisible monsters too." Savannah felt tears prick her eyes. After the presentation, Tyler ran to her, his backpack bouncing against his back. "Mummy, did you hear? Mrs. Johnson says I can be a real paleontologist and help sick kids when I grow up." "I heard, sweetheart," Savannah said, kneeling to hug him. "I'm so proud of you. Can we go see Daddy at the office? I want to show him my project grade." They drove to the foundation building, Tyler chattering about his day and his plans for the weekend. Daniel had promised to take him to the Natural History Museum, where they'd become regular visitors. Daniel was in his office, reviewing grant applications, when they arrived. At 35, he'd traded his expensive suits for more casual attire, though he still carried himself with the quiet authority that had made him successful in business. His hair was slightly grayer at the temples, and laugh lines crinkled around his eyes, evidence of the joy that had returned to his life. "There's my favorite paleontologist," he said, standing to embrace Tyler. "How did the presentation go?" "I got an A+, Tyler announced, pulling out his graded project. "And Jimmy Martinez said his uncle works at a museum and might let me visit the fossil lab." "That's wonderful, buddy," Daniel said, ruffling Tyler's hair. "Maybe we can arrange a special tour." As Tyler settled at the small desk Daniel had set up for him in the corner, complete with coloring books and educational games, Daniel wrapped his arms around Savannah from behind. "How was your day?" he asked, pressing a kiss to her temple. "Challenging, but good," she replied, leaning back against him. "The Peterson family reminded me of us 3 years ago. So scared, so lost. But they have hope now." "That's because of you," Daniel said softly. "You give them what you gave us, the belief that they can survive this." "We give them what we learned together," Savannah corrected. "That love is stronger than fear." Tyler looked up from his coloring book. "Are you guys being mushy again?" They laughed, and Daniel sat down beside his son. "Maybe a little. Is that okay?" "It's okay," Tyler said seriously. "But can we go home now? I want to show Grandma Sarah my project." And she promised to make dinosaur-shaped cookies. Sarah was Daniel's mother, who had moved from Seattle to be closer to her son and new daughter. She'd become Tyler's devoted grandmother and Savannah's trusted friend, often volunteering at the foundation and spoiling Tyler with homemade treats. At home in their suburban house in Millbrook, complete with a large backyard where Tyler could play and a home office where Daniel could work remotely, they gathered around the dinner table. The house was filled with evidence of their blended life. Tyler's dinosaur drawings on the refrigerator, photos from their wedding and family vacations, and Savannah's nursing textbooks stacked beside Daniel's business journals. "Daddy," Tyler said, picking at his vegetables, "can I ask you something?" "Of course, buddy. Do you think Mommy Rebecca is happy that Mommy Savannah is our family now?" Daniel's breath caught, and Savannah reached for his hand under the table. These questions came occasionally, always thoughtful and innocent, never accusatory. "I think," Daniel said carefully, "that Mommy Rebecca loved you so much that she would want you to have all the love possible. She would be happy that you have someone who takes care of you and loves you like Mommy Savannah does." Tyler nodded solemnly. "I think so too. And I think she helped Mommy Savannah find us on the train that day." "Maybe she did," Savannah said softly. "What do you think about that?" "I think it was the best train ride ever," Tyler declared, then brightened. "Can we have ice cream for dessert?" Later, after Tyler had been bathed and tucked into bed with his favorite dinosaur stuffed animal, Daniel and Savannah sat on their back porch, watching the sunset paint the sky in brilliant colors. "Do you ever think about what our life would have been like if we'd never met?" Daniel asked, his arm round her shoulders. "Sometimes," Savannah admitted. "I think I would have continued working at the hospital, probably burned out from the emotional weight of it all. I might have helped people, but I wouldn't have found my true purpose, and I would have remained a workaholic, thinking that success meant earnings reports and board meetings." Tyler would have grown up with nannies and private schools, but not much of his father. "But we did meet," Savannah said, turning to face him, "and Tyler got well, and we built something beautiful together." "More than beautiful," Daniel said, pulling her closer. "We built a family, and through our work, we're helping other families find their way to desertize." Tyler appeared in the doorway, his hair tousled from sleep. "I had a dream about dinosaurs," he announced, padding over to them in his pajamas. "Can I sit with you for a minute?" They made room between them, and Tyler settled against Savannah's side, his small body warm and solid. "What kind of dinosaurs were in your dream?" Savannah asked. "The kind that protect their families," Tyler said sleepily. "They were really brave." and strong, and they made sure everyone was safe. "That sounds like a wonderful dream," Daniel said, smoothing his son's hair. "It was," Tyler agreed, "and you were both there, and we were all together forever." As the stars began to appear in the darkening sky, the three of them sat in comfortable silence, bound together by love, loss, healing, and hope. The foundation continued its work, touching hundreds of families each year. Tyler grew stronger and more confident, his experience with illness giving him a unique compassion for others, and Savannah and Daniel's love deepened with each passing day, built on the solid foundation of shared purpose and mutual respect. The train that had brought them together that rainy morning had been just the beginning. The real journey was the life they'd built together, one small act of kindness at a time, proving that sometimes the most extraordinary love stories begin with the simplest gesture of human compassion.